Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today's first season was in Club Med Paradise Island in 1990 as part of Arizona State University's internship program, where he graduated from with a degree in international tourism and resort management. With a degree like that, I think he was bound for Club Med. He went as a DJ his first season, but wound up on the sailing team after, and he didn't have much experience in sailing, but we're going to get into that and more. He learned to speak French in high school and university, and he is from Boise, Idaho, and I do believe he's the first Idahoan on the program. Altogether, he worked for Club Med from 1990 to 1993 in villages such as Eleuthera, Copper Mountain, Cancun, and Punta Cana. Please help me welcome the one and only Kris Robinson. Hey, Kris, how are you, sir?
Hey, Greg. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I've listened to your podcast before, and I was like, man, how do I get on this thing? And you just called me out of the blue and asked me to do it, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, it would have helped me if you reached out to me, Kris, because I get rejected a lot. It's just like I'm back at Club Med, okay? Yeah, guys, anyone listening, just reach out to me, okay? For every Kris that says yes, there's about 9 of you that say no, thank you, or don't reply at all. So just if you want to be a guest, I'm always on Facebook. I'm very easy to reach. So please reach out to me, please. I can only handle so much rejection, people.
Okay. Your inbox is going to get flooded now, Greg.
I hope. All right. So you graduated from Arizona State University alongside notable alumni Jimmy Kimmel, Phil Mickelson, Pat Tillman, Barry Bonds, Kris Robinson. Were any of these guys there when you were there, as far as you know?
Yeah, actually, Phil Mickelson was there. He was on the team, and that's the year that he won the amateur.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. I used to see him out on the golf course all the time. There was a Karsten ping course that they built on the ASU campus, and it was great. If you had your student ID, you could play for $7. And we always saw Phil out there right after he won the collegiate. I think it was he won first place at collegiate, then he won the amateur. He was out on the course that next week, and we saw him out there. And yeah, interesting.
It's pretty crazy for me, a Canadian, to think that, like, and I'm sure Phil Mickelson was probably like scouted and offered there's golf scholarships, right? Am I correct?
Yes, there is, just like all the sports. Yep.
Yeah. So he was in Arizona, is very nice golf courses, wouldn't you say?
The tough thing about going to school at Arizona State, you never went to class. You either were on the beach volleyball court, or you were playing golf, or just waking up from a hangover being out at the discos all night.
Okay. Which brings me to my next question. Which one of you guys, now I know there's 2 major universities, there's one in Phoenix, right? So which one was always named the top party school in the US? Which one in Arizona? Was that yours?
Well, I went to, so ASU's in Tempe, which is a suburb of Phoenix, and it was always rated in Sports Illustrated and Playboy magazine as the top party school in the United States. And it was fun because I was a DJ at a few nightclubs in Tempe, and when everybody left ASU on spring break to go to Mazatlan or Cabo or San Felipe, Rocky Point, those type of places, everybody and all the other schools like Chicago area schools in New York and everywhere else in Michigan, they'd all come to ASU and party. And it was fun. I always stayed back for spring break because it was even more fun during the normal school season.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Like I said, my first season in 94, I met a few students who were from Arizona State, and they were part of this internship program, and they were there at Turks and Caicos getting credit for working there. And I was extremely jealous. Okay. Now, I like the fact that in your degree, you were actually in international tourism and resort management, correct?
I was, and I was at the time when I went to the first meeting with the Club Med, I was the president of the International Tourism Student Association, and I got kind of coerced in going to this Club Med meeting because I didn't want to go. And as you know, back then the Club Med headquarters for reservations was in Scottsdale, Arizona, which was just right up the street. And they had this internship program with only ASU University, Arizona State University.
Excuse me, Kris. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm just curious. Why did you not want to go to the Club Med meeting?
Oh, I never knew anything about Club Med except you'd see the wild back in the 70s and 80s. You'd see this hedonism type of thing. It's like I didn't really want to go. My professor, he was my favorite professor, and he was from Ghana, Africa, and he's like, in his accent, Kris, you need to go to here and you can educate everybody else in the club and stuff. And I said, okay, Victor, I'll go. I'll go. And it was so funny. I went in there and I didn't know what to expect. And I think it was Greg Schneider that was given the speech or the powwow that day. He happened to be in Scottsdale and he came and did this whole rah speech. And if it wasn't Greg, whoever it was, as we know, Greg Schneider is very charismatic and played the crowd and everybody. I left there like there was nothing else in life I wanted to do but get this job. I mean, it was like being a camp counselor for adults, and I could not believe it. It was like my mind was blown away. Now there was 450 students that applied for it that summer, and they were only going to take 26 and make them GOs, au pairs. And I was like, I there's nothing else I want. I want to be a GO. I want this job. I want to go off for the next 3.5 months, earn 9 credits, and experience this whole thing. It came down to I got one of the 26 positions, and I was flabbergasted. It was amazing. So here's a guy from Idaho that's traveled very little except to maybe Mexico and other places in the United States. And all of a sudden I was going to the Bahamas, and I was just out of my mind. I was excited. It was great. I was lucky. You know the feeling. You feel like, wow, I got this job. It's going to be incredible. I'm going to be a camp counselor in the Bahamas.
Now, because part of your degree was in resort management, did you think you were going to be the chief of village that summer?
I didn't even know what a chief of village was.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I had no idea. I didn't know the speak, the acronyms, the slang, any of this stuff. So when we landed in Paradise Island, back then it was the Merv Griffin Casino and Merv Griffin Airport. It was small. Paradise Island was very small. We didn't know anything. I went with 3 other people, and the other person. It's kind of a funny story because there's this guy at school that was in a different fraternity, and we had mutual friends, and everybody's like, you got to meet this guy Sean. You guys are so much alike, and you need to meet each other. And I'm like, okay, and we never did. You know how school is, you just hang in different circles. And then some friends said, hey, Sean got this internship too. Maybe you guys are going to go to the same place. And I'm like, oh, maybe, I don't know. There's 25 other students. I don't know where anybody's going except I'm going to Paradise Island. And I get to the airport and shocked to here's this guy, Sean Daniels, that everybody's been talking about. And he goes, you're Kris Robinson? And I said, yes. And he goes, oh my God, I'm Sean Daniels. Everybody talks that we need to get together. And he goes, we're going to Paradise Island together. Make a long story short, we wound up being roommates, and that was the start of a lifelong friendship. And it was awesome. It was great. So
what do you remember about that first week, your first day arriving? Is it hazy, or do you have a vivid memory of it?
Yeah, I remember the first night. Every season, as you know, is different. So this first season that I went to, we landed and we go to the village. There's a car to pick us up at the Merv Griffin Airport, which is a small little airport. We flew from Miami, and we get there, and we hear all this clapping and all this stuff going on. Well, what's going on? And we go to the plant. Did you ever work at Paradise Island?
Yes, I did. But just a quick side note. You keep saying Merv Griffin Airport. Why would the Bahamian officials name an airport after Merv Griffin?
Well, I think Merv Griffin had the casino there. He built the golf course and he built that airport. So
was it, but in later years, was it closed? Because I was there in 2002, 2003, and I don't recall anyone mentioning Merv Griffin.
It's closed now.
Okay.
Atlantis bought pretty much that whole island.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'd never heard this before. So this is very interesting to me. Sorry about that. Go on.
No,
please.
That's okay. I'm glad I could educate you a little bit here. So.
Yes, please.
I'm showing my age, Greg. Sorry. No. We get to the office. We get to the welcome area, and we get out, and there's this team of GOs there, dressed all in the same outfit, this white with floral print on it, and they're like, "Come over to the planning area," and we're like, "What are we going to plan? We don't understand." No, come over to the reception. It's where we're going to assign you rooms. And I'm like, okay, that's great. So we sign in, we get all this stuff, and all of a sudden, all these people in the same uniform come over and they greet us and all this stuff. And we're like, wow, this is amazing. And like, come to the bar, have a drink with us. And then the chef de village was there with the chief of sports at the bar waiting for us. They had this whole thing planned that these 4 interns were coming in, and they had a drink for us. And the chef de village, it's Frederic Leroux. He says, what would you like to drink? And I said, well, what are you drinking? And he goes, this is a French pastis Ricard. And I said, I'll have one of those. Try it. He goes, have you ever had it before? And I go, no, but I'm in college. I'll drink anything. Anyway,
I'm from ASU.
I'm from ASU, the #1 party school in the nation. Don't you know? We like to party. Anyway, it was just after the show and everybody was standing around and stuff, and we had that. And back to my Ricard, I took my first drink and I spit it out.
Yeah.
They all started laughing because I didn't know what I was getting into, but that was my first instance with the French pastis.
Sorry,
Anyway,
so that's the one you add water to?
that's the one you add water
Oh,
to.
okay.
Small glass, maybe one or two pieces of ice. That's the way the French like it, and then the rest in water that you fill up and stuff. And yes,
But fast forward till now, you developed a taste for it. True or false?
definitely true. I'm
Okay.
actually I'm actually having one right now for this.
Okay. Look at that. Well, you're better than me. I could never get used to it. So I guess it's an acquired taste, but yeah, I didn't acquire
Definitely
it.
an acquired taste. Yes.
Okay. Let's get to the DJ thing. Like, how did you know you could DJ? What prompted that when you were younger to it's like, hey, I want to
I've
DJ.
always been really into music my whole life. When I was a kid, I always listened to 8 tracks and just got really into music in the 80s, the whole new wave genre of music. I totally got into when I went to ASU. I got into it, and I was a apprentice for a DJ at this disco called Premier Nightclub. It was a huge nightclub in Tempe. I was working there with this apprentice, and that was the start of the kickoff of the U2 Joshua Tree tour. And I met Bono and Edge, and
What?
yeah, they all came up to the DJ booth, and the head
What?
DJ Scott's like, "Will you take over from here? I'm going to go get my Boy album signed by the band." And I said, "Wow, that's awesome." And then they came up, and I got to meet him, and my roommate, this girl Adrian, she actually danced with the Edge, the Time Warp down on the dance floor. I mean, it was really cool. It was
What?
surreal. It
Are you
was very cool.
serious? Oh
Yeah,
man.
very, very
You,
cool.
you got to
So
meet you two at the height of the Joshua Tree tour?
at the beginning, that's where they kicked off their tour, and that's when they
Wow.
ended their tour. So
Nice.
yeah, and you know what's still one of my top 3 albums that I love, the Joshua Tree. It's phenomenal.
Oh, it is. No, yeah,
Yeah,
that's my favorite too. Yeah.
yeah. So that kicked off my career being a DJ. I did it for 3 years at ASU. I worked at the Devil House. I was a DJ there. I had this tour of all these different nightclubs 5 nights a week, and I would be a DJ at different ones 5 nights a week, and it was cool. So when I applied for the Club Med, the internship, I put myself as a DJ, and I got hired to come to Paradise Island. When I got there, they already had a DJ, Mark from New York. He was already there. I was going to be on the animation team and help them out. And animation team, I don't know what's an animation team. I didn't know. I was just going there to be a DJ. So I helped them out on the animation team. I would fill in for him every now and then. And then Kevin Batt's first season as chief of sports, we got along really well, and he wanted me to be on the sports team. And I said, well, I came here for DJ. He's like, well, you can do that still if you want and help out them, but I really need some help in the sailing team. I had to let somebody go, and can you go down there? And I didn't know anything about sailing, Greg. Just honestly, I love the beach, and I like to be on boats because I always had a boat growing up. And I said, okay, I'm going to learn this. I went down there, and I think the chef de voile was Vincent from St. Lucia, and this girl from California. I think she was from California, Debbie, and they taught me everything about sailing. The lines, the sails, the booms, the rudder, how to come about, all this stuff. And I did that for a couple of weeks, and it was awesome. And then Kevin asked me to move to the snorkeling picnics team, and I go, sure, I can do a picnic. I didn't know what that was, and I love snorkeling, so I did that, and it was awesome. It was really good. You want me to keep going? Because I can.
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering, like, who, because I think I might have had someone else on from this team. Were there any like notable names that we might recognize on the sports team from your time there?
On the sports team. Oh, we had
Yes.
a phenomenal sports team. It was a huge tennis team there because a lot of the New York executives for Club Med, they all played tennis, and it was the easiest flight to get to a Club Med was from JFK to Nassau. So they had a huge tennis team there. Giorgio from Italy, Reed from Oregon, James from California. I'm going to miss some people, so don't get mad at me. Okay.
No. I was just curious. Like,
I'm staying in the audience. I don't want the audience to get mad at me
no. Yeah, don't send them any
Yeah.
angry emails. Okay,
Yeah.
people. Okay.
Let's see. We had a golf team there. Sean, my roommate, Sean Daniels, he was the head of golf there. We had archery there.
Now, was this a singles or family village in 1990? Do you recall?
They called it a couples village.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, but there was a lot of singles that did come there and couples. It was, you know what, that property there, I'm sure it was the same when you were there. It used to be a botanical garden. It was phenomenal, that saltwater pool. And I lived in Grayleaf. Where did you live when you were there?
Oh, I had one of the. I don't know if it was there at the time when you were there, but I had kind of. I'm not going to use the word villa. It was more like a shack by the water, kind of by just off of the Annex restaurant. But I don't know if they were built when you were there. But if you
Right.
were in Grayleaf, were there ghosts back then? Because you always hear about Paradise Island ghost stories. So do you have any? Did you see the
Uh,
old lady by the pool or?
you know what, they always talked they always talked about the ghosts. This is a great
Okay,
story.
okay.
My roommate Sean and the nurse Charlene, she was from Windsor, Ontario, and one other person. They went to those houses that used to be part of the Club Med, on the east side fence there by
Yeah,
the rooms.
yeah.
There were two houses there, and one night they went into one of the houses and they had a total ghost story experience. I was back at the room that night. It was late, like after the shows, after the disco closed, and he came in and he was, excuse the expression, but he was white as a ghost. And I said, "What is wrong?" He goes, "You will not believe what just happened." And I said, after I heard the story, I was like, are you okay? You guys on something tonight or so? What, this is way wild." And he said, "No, listen, this is what happened." And they went into the house and the bell ringing upstairs, and they went in, the doors closed behind them, and they felt this presence there, and they were freaked out. It was really intense, and I believe it. And
Okay, so you could tell they weren't acting, like you could see in their face they genuinely were spooked, right?
not only this, but the XGO that I married, she had the same experience as he did, and they didn't even know each other yet. And when we were in LA and he started telling the story, she would finish his sentence, and they told the whole exact same story to synonymously, and they both experienced the same exact thing. And from then on, I totally believe in everything like that it's two individuals didn't even know each other. They told the same exact story with not even knowing that they were going to tell that story. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll say, wow.
Yeah. Why did you have an experience?
No, no, not at all. No, none there. I got robbed. I didn't see anything. Well, I'm a skeptic about ghosts. I mean,
Yeah.
if ghosts are real, how come we never see any cavemen ghosts? Why is it always little boys from the 1800s in England? Okay.
I don't know.
That'd be
It's the
great.
British thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
they also say that pool is filled with salt water to keep the bad spirits away.
Yes, I've heard. Yeah, I've heard that. That's
And
right.
under Grayleaf, there's an elevator that went downstairs, and those rooms were always off. They were off the premise. You couldn't ever go down there because
Yeah,
those were the haunted rooms.
that's right. That's right. You're
Yeah.
right.
We
Wow.
should do a show. We should do the Ghost Stories show.
Yeah,
Should do.
we'll get ghost hunters to go out there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So you do May to August 1990. Then I guess you go back to school the following year. You sign up for a Luther. Now, is this still for credit or you've graduated by now?
Yeah, no, I graduated. I went for 3.5 months to Paradise Island. I went back to school. I finished, and then I moved to Denver. I didn't know what I was going to do. I really miss Club Med. I almost stayed at Club Med and not went back for that final semester because I got offered a contract, and I halfway through the season as snorkeling responsive and picnics, and I took it. So I just fell in love with it. And the Geo team there was phenomenal. It's like family, as you know. You get to know everybody, and I didn't want to leave. It was really hard for all of us to leave because we created such a bond with the whole Geo team. Even the PS, the local. I really got to know a lot of the local Bahamians, and the Rastafarian Marcus, who was the Rastafarian shuttle driver on the boat from club over to NASA. I got to know him, and it was really hard. But I went back to school. I wanted to finish. I moved to Denver, and I was a bartender in Denver at Governor's Park, and I just really didn't like Denver. And
Well,
I
Chris, sorry, Chris, can I just interject here? I just want to say you did make the right decision, okay? Because I'm currently a student in university now, trying to finish the degree I started before I left the Club Med. So I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but no, you did do the right thing by going back and finishing.
thank
Trust
you.
me. Trust
Yeah.
me. Okay. All
Well,
right. So we're
hindsight, right?
yeah. All right. We're in Denver bartending. You get the
But
itch again.
well, that's the time that Tom Cruise's movie Cocktail.
Cocktail.
And I was like,
Yes.
I'm bartending this. I'm bartending. Why can't I go to Jamaica or somewhere? And I want to get back to Club Med. And so MJ was head of the bars in North America, and I got a hold of her, and I got her on the phone, and I said, I really want to go back to Club Med. I want to be a bartender. And she said, well, let me look up your file. Can you hold for a second? I want to look up your file and see what the reviews were, you being a GO and your au pair. And I said, okay. And I held for like 5 minutes. She came back and she goes, can you leave on Friday? I said, today's Sunday. And she said, yeah, I need you to leave on Friday. I'm going to send you back to the Bahamas. I need a bartender in Eleuthera. And I said, okay, I'm done. I went to my roommate and I said, hey, I'm going to leave. I need to put my stuff in storage and I'm going to leave on Friday. I got a job in the Bahamas. I'm going to go to Eleuthera. So I left. I went to Eleuthera, and my chief of bar was Sean Ellman. He is from, I think he's from New York as well. He lives in California now. My
Chief of
chief,
Village was
yeah,
Dirk.
yeah, it was
Dirk
Dirk from Germany.
Noera, I think is how you
I
pronounce
can't
it.
remember his last
Yeah,
name.
yeah, it's Noera, Noura.
Yeah. And I went back there and I fell in love with Eleuthera, and I got to know all the PS really well because being behind the bar, you get to know everybody. And I can still say today, a bunch of the PS are still some of my best friends today. Go back to the Bahamas and I go see them all the time. Eleuthera was amazing. I'm sure you know this as well, but every village is different. People ask me all the time, what was your favorite village? And I can never say that there's one over the other because I love Paradise Island because Paradise Island is my first season, and Eleuthera. I love Eleuthera. I
Well,
love
what about magical? If I said the word magical, did any of your villages you worked at appear magical? Was it the first one? Because it was your first one.
maybe Eleuthera. I went to buying property. I have property in Eleuthera. I love Eleuthera so much because it's so out of the 70s and it's like a ghost town, right? Did you ever make it to Eleuthera?
No, no, I wish because so many people say very many nice things about that, that
It's
village.
incredible, and you know what? It's because of the people. The Bahamian people on the Family Islands are so much different than they are in Nassau. They would take me in. I would be walking down Governor's Harbor streets going somewhere, and they would hail me and say, come in and have some beans and peas and rice or conch salad. And I would just sit around and meet their family, and we'd have food together and maybe a click. And then I'd be on my way, and somebody
Well,
else would say,
yeah,
oh,
I was just thinking that, Chris. Like, I'm so jealous. You can go to Luther and drink Kalik, okay? Because I miss that beer
oh,
so much.
I miss it too. That's why I go back every year.
I think you've got it all figured out.
Well, I'm trying.
We're not even nearly halfway through this interview, and I think you might be the most put together SOB I've ever met. You've got it all figured out. Okay.
Thanks. By the way, I'm going to start selling shares so people can jump on board if they want.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What happened in Eleuthera? Anything interesting?
Boy, the Geo team was great there. They had a circus team, which was chief of circus was Batman, and the late Darwin was on the team then. Who else? Chief of sports was Steve Riley. He was the chief of sports
Oh,
there.
okay.
First time I got to meet him. I mentioned Sean's name as the chief of bar, and Lynn was another bartender with me there. I think she was from Pittsburgh. She's from somewhere in Pennsylvania. And then we had I think it was Fernando. He was from Italy. We had a really tight team, and it was great being in the bar. You didn't have to spend your money on drinks because at the bar you get to drink for free, and you could use all the beads you wanted, which was great. And you got time to go discover the island, and that was where I think I fell in love with Eleuthera so much. As I would go to Coconut Grove, and there was a spike in the sand, and we used to bust. I would take GMs and we bust open coconuts down there and make rum drinks on the beach, or take just long walks. Eleuthera's deserted, so you could walk on the beach still today for 2 hours and not see one person. And I like that. I like to have time for myself. And like I mentioned earlier, it was like a ghost town along that the Banks Road there. That's not the Queens Highway. The Banks Road on where Club Med was. There's all these old dilapidated buildings, and they were still preserved inside, and you could walk in and go see black and white pictures from the 70s. Eleuthera used to be the place for the blue bloods back on the East Coast to go experience life. And they had these old clubs. The old Potlatch Club, which is down the beach, was owned by the Joiners. And this gentleman from Cuba is actually taking it over, and he's just now opening it up. He's restored the old Potlatch Club. And it's cool. It's very, very cool. I went back last summer. A year ago today, we were in Eleuthera. There was 23 of us. It's pretty much the same as it was 30 years
Wait,
ago.
I'm sorry, Kris. Were any of these XGOs or other people that you know?
Look, they were friends. I took my kids. My kids have been going there since before they were born.
Okay.
Yeah, they love Eleuthera as well.
Because I think you mentioned you do go to vacation with XGOs sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of XGOs, but my number one traveling companion, my soul brother, is Mike Page, Mike Traffic. And we've been to Eleuthera together 15, 20 times.
Oh wow.
We call him the mayor of Governor's Harbor because they all know him as Mike Traffic and they will hail him. He goes jogging around. And if you're with him, everybody knows Mike Page. It's cool. It's really, really cool. I met most of the people on the island from Mike Page going back with him. I never worked with him on that island. I worked with him later on down the road, but he's worked there 7 or 8 times.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the group that I went with last year were just friends from here, from Boise. I keep talking about it. A couple guys that I know that are friends of mine. They're in a band in LA. They came and they played for us nightly. And then my kids, we had a great time.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. But it looks like after all this time in the Bahamas, for some reason, you want to go skiing. Like you want to see the snow. I find that hard to believe after the pink sand beaches of Eleuthera. You saying, you know what? I want snow. So I'm guessing you were a skier in Idaho.
I was a ski instructor. And when I heard that they had a place in Copper Mountain, Colorado, I'm like, I want to go be a geo there. I'd love to do it. And I heard you get tips when you're there and you get the same group all week long. And I loved teaching kids. When I was in high school, I taught kids and there was a kids club. So I went there because I hadn't been a ski instructor for the French, the monitor du ski, you had to take the stage. So that means you had to do the stage for 2 weeks. And we went right after Thanksgiving. My roommate for the stage wound up being Reed Tennis. He was my roommate there, and we both went through the stage together. And we met, and I saw some other people that I knew from previous villages as well. And it was cool. The stage, I thought I was a good skier until I took the stage and realized I wasn't that great. But by the end of the stage, I learned all the physics and everything of skiing. The French are so passionate about skiing, right? And they will teach you everything. And it's totally different than PSIA, which is the American version of ski instructing. It was cool. I passed the stage and I made it. That was a phenomenal season. Did you ever work at Copper or probably?
No, I wouldn't have wanted to anyway. Being from Montreal, I worked 10 years in Club Med just to escape the winter. But I see you're reunited with your chief of village from Paradise, Frederic Leroux. For Copper Mountain, he was the same chief of village as you had in Paradise, no? Or
No. So then I got that wrong. Frederick Leroux, my chief in Copper, and there was another Frederic. I don't care.
Okay. Okay. Were there a lot of French guests there in November 91?
Yeah, there was. And by the way, it was Frederic Leroux and Paradise Island, and it's Pierre Latire-Gagnon from Quebec.
He was
he was our chief at Copper.
Yeah. From Montreal. Okay, great. So you mentioned like tips. So yeah, you probably had the only 2 jobs in Club Med where, yes, I mean, we know Club Med didn't have a tipping policy, but we kind of looked the other way when it was bartending and ski instructor, right? So both these things, was kind of accepted, but no one talked about, right? Or am I wrong?
In Copper Mountain, the ski villages, everybody knew you got tips, and it was cool because Friday came, your group you had all week. They knew that they'd give you an envelope at dinner that night. You'd eat with them that night, and you'd get an envelope, and it was cool. And as time went on, I learned. I put my sales hat on. I learned how to just do a little bit more because on Fridays I'd put a backpack together, and Copper Mountain was beautiful. Rocky Mountains always got this high pressure system over it, so you have these beautiful blue skies. And after lunch I would have this backpack on, and the bar team and the kitchen team would put a little package together for me. I would have Midori and tequila and ice, or not ice, sorry. I had a portable blender, and we would go on the ski slopes, and I tell everybody put their ski tails in the thing and lean up against, and then I would make these Rocky Mountain margaritas. And
you had a blender on the slopes.
I had a little Black & Decker battery operated blender.
ASU.
ASU, exactly. It's all coming back. So the answer to your question about that school, they teach you how to party, right? So that's why it's always the number one party school. No, it was great because then the photographers would know that I would be doing this, and they'd come and take pictures of it, and the Schnapps patrol would come by at the same time. And it was great because then at dinner that night I'd even have a thicker envelope, and I loved it, and it was cool. It's one of the best things of Copper Mountain is doing those Friday afternoon margarita things with the class that you were teaching. They're all adults, not the kids, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. And you also like help bartend and DJ in this resort as well, correct?
I did whenever they needed me to help out, I would help out. I think can't remember who the chief
So,
of was
well,
there.
let me ask you, as a DJ in Club Med, what was your so eventually like any DJ anywhere, he's going to get asked a song request that's going to kill the vibe. So, did you have a way of as as a salesman, did you have a way of convincing the person not to make that request, or how did you handle it? Do you recall?
Because you always have to succumb to the guests, right? The
True,
GMs have to
true.
be really, really nice to them and stuff, and just in a really polite way. And so, yeah, I'll get to that. I'll make sure I get to that. Or I'm sorry, I don't have that. I don't have that 12-inch here, and we only play 12 inches here. Or I don't have that. Some villages they only had CDs, and I didn't have that CD. I kind of get around it, or sometimes I just play it to do it. But I would fit it in to get it. But I was really about the vibe and the mojo. You want to keep everybody out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, you know that there's certain songs that will crush that, right? Like
Yes.
if asked. Okay, I was just curious. All right, so you trade in your skis there, and I see you go to Cancun, May '92, with Chief of Village Ye and Kevin Batts, your Chief of Sports again, right?
Kevin Batts, my chief of sports, they said, well, that when I was leaving Copper Mountain, they offered me sandpipers because I want to go be a bartender again. They offered me sandpiper, and I said, I don't really want to go to sandpiper. I didn't want to go to the family village. I already experienced that at Luther. Luther was, even though I fell in love with the Luther, the village itself was dead sometimes, and the families, it was tough. I said, okay, what if I went as a DJ somewhere? Do you need a DJ anywhere? And they said, actually, we need a DJ in Cancun. And I went, bang, Cancun. I hear all these stories, how much fun it is and crazy. And I would love to go there. Singles Village, Cancun, never been to Cancun. And so I went to Cancun. I show up and Kevin is the chief of sports. And I didn't know he was there. I never heard of Ye. I never worked with Ye. And I went there a couple weeks after there, Kevin asked me to be not on the animation team anymore. He asked me to come to the sports team and to just go do snorkeling again, but we still need you as DJ. And I was like, well, that's like a double contract. I mean, I'm going to work until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every morning. Got to get up at 8 o'clock to go do the other stuff. And he goes, you can do it. Cancun was my hardest season. And for all those that worked Cancun, how true it is because it's such a huge village, right? And if you're out on that peninsula, and to get from the circus, you have to go all the way through the volleyball courts by the pool, the snorkeling shack, and then all the way down to the tennis courts. And that's where you lived, was out there in I forgot what they called the did you work in Cancun?
Yes, sir, for 1 year.
What were those casitas out there that we all by the entry gate? Those are called what?
Oh, geez, I don't remember. Well, the Geo rooms were near the gate. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So that's when you went home at night. You had to go all the way out there and you were exhausted, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we stayed in shape. It was hot. Boy, Mexico at that time of the year, the summer is so hot. After a show, you could take a shower and you'd come out of the shower and you'd be immediately sweating again.
Chris, just one thing. I had another Geo on, an ex Geo, I believe was the same season as you. His name was Fergie from Montreal. Can you confirm if you worked with Fergie?
Well, that's a true story. I worked with Fergie. It was very
And you
interesting.
and you lived to tell about it. No, just
I
kidding.
did
Love
live
you,
to tell,
Fergie.
and I helped him out in land sports a lot too with Sergio Tennis. Sergio Tennis, myself, and Fergie, we held, it's such a big village. We held all these spectacular shows and contests that Kevin wanted to put together. We needed 3 land sports people. And one of the events that we put together was the Fergie toss, where GMs would take Fergie off this platform in the pool and see who could throw him the furthest. And I remember on the show that I listened to, he talked about that. And it was so funny because I haven't thought about it since then. So we do the Fergie toss and the volleyball competition with Sergio's buddy who ran Cuervo. And we had this big, huge Cuervo bottle balloon we had to set up every day for a couple of weeks because they had this big volleyball tournament there. And we did this during 4th of July and Bastille Day, those 2 weeks. We did this. We had to build a raft. Each service had to build some kind of raft, and you hoped that it would float, and you had to go out to this buoy out by the peninsula where the little lighthouse is, and then come back. And people would do the trifecta, who would get first, second, and third. Their Club Med loved to do those competitions where you pick who's going to win, and then they would win champagne and stuff. And then you had the Olympics that you had there, and things. What was really cool about Club Med Cancun is the turtles in the summertime. They hatch the little baby turtles. The scuba team, they went out and they built this metal net meshing, and they put it under scuba dock. So every night we'd go out and we'd catch the turtles and we'd go save them, because they say 1 in 100 turtles would survive. So we were catching them, putting them out there, and we were taking them lettuce and stuff from the buffet, and we go out there and feed them all the time. And then we went out on a night dive one night and we just set them all free. That's really cool. That's an amazing experience.
Yeah, no, that was the highlight until some seasons. I don't know if you've heard these stories. Later on, they would take GMs to watch the turtle eggs hatch, and it wouldn't be turtle eggs. It would be the animator dressed up as a turtle on the beach. And some got the joke. Some were real angry about that. I don't know if they did that when you were there, but I know in later seasons this happened.
No, they never did. Other stories about Cancun.
What about the nightlife? Like I used to love Coco Bongo. That was my favorite nightclub. Were you a Daddy-O's guy?
Well, we were Daddy-O's guy. Daddy-O's, we went there all the time, and they'd give us table service. We'd bring all the GMs, and the GM there loved us at Daddy-O's, and he would totally take care of us. And I saw the sun come up many times coming home from Daddy-O's and having to go right to breakfast and do my service. But we did this one big show at Daddy-O's one week where we took the entire show down to Daddy-O's, and all the regular patrons from Cancun that would go to Daddy-O's on an evening, and all the GMs, we bust them down, and we did the entire show at Daddy-O's, and it was cool. Like,
really? Do you recall what show?
Like Jan. It was
okay.
They're all like individual shows, like Janet Jackson dance show and all these other ones. It was cool. It was really, really cool. And that's the thing about Kevin. He always likes to set the bar higher every single week. And you do really obscure things like Fergie toss or 24 hours of swimming or things like that.
What? It was 24 hours of swimming? Oh God.
Oh yeah. It was nonstop. It was fun, but it was exhausting. It really was.
Oh my God. Okay. I hated the pool game, being a land sports and Shiva sport, but I wish I could have seen a Fergie toss, because at least that's amusing, that's unlike any other pool game I've ever witnessed. So that would have been fun to be there for that.
And the infamous rooftop splash photography for last day of Olympics, they'd all gather around.
Yeah, I'm always so impressed or surprised that the GMs fall for that one.
Yeah.
Well, how many cameras did you ruin there, right?
Yeah, exactly. We had an XPO reunion there 15 years ago or whatever.
Wait a minute. I was there in 2008 and 2010. Were you at that was XGO 2 and 3? Were you at one of those?
I was at 2.
Well, so was I, sir. Darn.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry I didn't get to meet you.
Yeah, it's too bad I wasn't doing this back then.
That was a great reunion because all the Chiefs.
It was. Yes. Everyone was there at that one. Everyone. Wow. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, they did the same thing, and I went, okay.
Yeah.
Not falling for this again.
Yeah, it was funny. So funny. And the alligator was there, the crocodile.
Yes, Albert, right? Albert. Well,
and Mike Jorgensen. I think it was Mike Jorgensen.
Yes.
He was the chef de ski, water ski, and he would jump out of the window of the cafeteria.
Yes, barefoot. Yeah, and then they would barefoot out.
It was insane.
Yeah.
and so I did the picnics there too, and we used to get that old Nina or whatever, that old battalion Spanish
wooden boat there.
Yeah, we'd put all the people there, and I would just get done DJing at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'd have to go to the kitchen and start making sangria in the big bucket and do all this stuff, and I was exhausted. And my partner in crime was Sergio Guerra, Sergio from Mexico. He was chief of tennis, and he would do the picnics with me, and we would be at the entrance of the boat. People would come on, and we had those pump up squirt guns, those big squirt guns, pump up, filled up with tequila sunrise, and that would start the day off. And you'd go out to that big sandbar out there and play music, and everybody have cocktails. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, so this was they didn't have picnic when I was there in 2004, 2005. So this was how far away was the sandbar from the club?
It was probably 45 minutes to the
Okay.
south towards the coastline down south there towards Cozumel, going that way.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I
Well,
never got
going to
to see it.
Cozumel, or what's that town that's down there?
Playa del Carmen. Right.
Right.
They had a nice, beautiful wide beach there. I went there on actually during the last day of the XGO reunion. I went there. Never been there the whole year I worked there, and it was I was impressed how wide, because at Cancun at the club we had a lot of erosion, right? We lost a lot of beach with various hurricanes, but I found that Playa del Carmen they had miles and miles, very wide sand beaches. Did you find that?
Yes, when we got 3 days, Ye gave everybody 3 days off at the end of the summer. And so it was great. I wanted to go down.
What? How do you do
Yes.
that? How do you do that?
No, it was such a great season. They wanted to give us some time off. So
Wow.
we took advantage of it. And we went to Cozumel and Playa del Carmen. And it's funny, luckily we rented a Jeep because that in 1992, the road down to Playa del Carmen from Cancun was a dirt road. I mean, through the jungle. I mean, it was nothing like now it's 2 lanes going each way. It's a major freeway down there. And I thought that was interesting. And over the years, seeing how built up Playa del Carmen is and that whole Yucatan Peninsula, I thought that's cool.
Yeah. And then we move on to your last season in Club Med, Punta Cana, November 92, Chef de Village Pierrot, and your snorkeling picnics in this village.
I am. I was originally going to San Moritz, Switzerland, to be a monitor to ski instructor there. I got a contract. They only wanted 2 Americans, and I got it. I decided not to go because my girlfriend, she couldn't get a contract in the boutique, so we opted not to go. They said you can go au pair, and we're like, no, we want to be able to make money, and so they offered us Punta Cana, and we're like, yeah, let's go to Punta Cana. And
And if I recall, you couldn't go because even though you spoke French, your girlfriend did not, right?
yeah, they wanted a French speaking person in the boutique, and she didn't
Okay.
speak French, so she couldn't get a contract. So we got offered Punta Cana, and we are like, yes, let's go. And never been to the Dominican Republic, and that was cool. And American was my chief of sports, Andrew. And Andrew, if you're listening, I forgot your last name, but I like to say hello because I think about you often. He was a cool guy. He worked in Tahiti and he had all these cool Tahitian tattoos everywhere. He was such a laid back chief of sports. Coincidentally, this last season, I said every season is different. This last season was probably my closest friends that I still have today. Joe and Michelle. Joe was chief of circus and Michelle worked in the mini club. Scotty Moss, who was on the sports team, and Todd, he was in the sports team, and Mike Page, Mike Traffic was there, and Anne Marie was there. Anne Marie Jordan, who married Tomas, the German water ski chief of ski. And they're just all people that I still stay really close in touch with. And it was a great season. And by the way, Punta Cana was the weirdest season. It's a third world country, and we had things that happened us there was bizarre. Like, well, it's Dominican Republic's connected to Haiti, right? And so you'd always
Yes.
have these Haitians. They would come and steal our water ski boats, and Andrew would come knocking on the condos at night and say, "Come on, we got to go," and we'd go hop in with the federales and our other boats that we had and go look for our boat. And one night we found these 2 guys, and they were clear down south by the Punta Cana Beach Resort. It was so weird. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, no moon, completely black, and we had these flashlights. We were looking for the boat, and we saw this flash, and we go over, and they have oars, and they're using oars. Well, we found out that what they do is they steal these boats and they load them down with 20 people on a boat that's supposed to fit 8, right? And they try to get over to Puerto Rico. It was wild. We got our boat back. They went off to a jail for a night. When I was in Punta Cana, they had this little bar next door called the Barrio, and it was cool. You could go there for $19 and get a bottle of Dominican rum, a lobster tail, rice and peas, all for $19, and it was amazing. It's not there anymore. The club bought the land and they extended the club. But and the other really cool thing about that season is the whales migrated that winter.
Oh,
And
really?
when we'd see them out snorkeling, it was so cool to see them out there and then they came back with their babies. And one morning I went out with one of the Dominican guys that drives the boat, and we took the small little whaler, and we saw it was completely flat. When you see the ocean and it's completely flat like glass, and you're like, wow, what a mystical thing. And it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. We hopped in the boat and we go past the reef, and he's standing on the front of the boat. All of a sudden, the whale's tail like 20 feet wide, just comes out of the water right at the bow of the boat, and he falls back, and I'm laughing. And like, then it was like it was amazing. It was like being in a National Geographic film. It was really, really cool.
Wow, that's probably one of those memories you cherish forever, right? When you're lucky enough to see that, right?
Yeah, it's still do. I still cherish it. I think about that stuff all the time.
Well, speaking of, May '93, so that's your last season. So from now to May '93, and like myself, I spent 10 years in Club Ed. I keep having I ask this question occasionally about recurring dream. So in my dream, I'm literally trapped working a whole day in Club Med, a full 8 hours. I'm late for something, or I have to set something up, and I can't get out of the dream, and I'm a bit stressed because it's a busy day. Do you have any kind of Club Med dream like now?
Oh, I have reoccurring Club Med dreams constantly. It's funny, Mike Page and I talk about this a lot when we're hanging out on the beach and saying that these just reoccurring and they're so random. It's funny you say it, a work day of 8 hours. When Geo back when we were then doing this thing, we'd work 18, 19 hours a day. And it was just like, I think you have all these memories and these memories embedded in your brain so much they just come up and you'll see random images of people that you worked with and you're like, wow, I can't believe I thought about that person or something. I just think Club Med life has such an impact on people if you're fully embraced of being a GO, that you're going to have these memories for the rest of your life. And I think it's cool. I've never had any bad memories. I haven't no nightmares. I haven't woke up in a cold sweat.
Okay. Well, let me ask you another question. Since you're an early '90s Geo, so so before the internet, they would send your plane tickets by Pure Later or FedEx, right? So
Yeah.
to this day, when you're driving in your neighborhood and you see a FedEx or Pure Later truck, do you think that they're bringing your tickets are coming? Because I still do this every single day. I see a delivery truck. I think they're bringing me my plane tickets and it's going to take me away. Does this happen to you?
No, I'm beyond it. The business I'm in, I know my UPS and FedEx drivers by personal name and their birthdays and everything. I see them every single day, multiple times. So it's
Okay. Okay. So it's
thankfully
just me. It's just me that's stuck in the past. Okay.
that's all right. It's good. It's good, Greg. You're doing well.
Yeah. Oh, so many questions. Okay, what about this then? You're in a grocery store. Okay, I don't know if you were a big crazy sign or not, but a song comes on, reminds you of your days in Clement. Do you have to physically restrain yourself from dancing side to side and clapping your hands upon hearing this song? Does this happen to you? No.
Oh yeah, I love this. I love
Okay.
the crazy sides.
Oh, you do? You have a favorite
Oh,
one?
you know what? Again, I embraced everything that the Club Med had offer. I was in all the shows that I could be in. The crazy signs constantly, working for Kevin. If you weren't at the front, if the sports team wasn't in front every single night, you're gonna leave tomorrow. And when you get
Yeah.
left leave tomorrow, you know that you're going home. So that's a funny thing about Club Med is if you quit, you could never work for Club Med ever again. But if they fired you, you could go to another village.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird. Yeah, it's the opposite of the real world, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's Club Med. I still go to Club Meds today. And I mentioned saying all the geos that you met throughout the world. I meet people that work for Club Med all the time. I travel a lot. I was just in Los Angeles last fall, and I was in Hollywood, Melrose, and I was shopping. All of a sudden, I walk into the store, just random. I go, I'm going to walk in there. I walk into the store, and all of a sudden, I hear this Kris Robinson. I look up, and it's Sharice Reich from Planning, my first season at Paradise Island. I was like, it was so random, right? That I walk in the store and she's working there. And then that same weekend, I wound up having dinner with my ex chief of bar, Sean Ellman, who lives in California. He came out and we haven't seen each other since I lived in LA 25 years ago. And it's just you have these connections, and that's the thing about good friends is you're good friends because you may not see each other for 25 years, but all of a sudden you see each other and you have this connection, this bond. And it was like yesterday that you saw one another. It's cool. It's family, right? It's the XGO community.
Yes. Speaking of family, did you say earlier in the interview that you married an ex-Geo?
I did. I married, we worked together in Cancun, Carolyn Boutique. She's from Windsor, Ontario. We went to Punta Cana together, and then we moved to LA for 4 years. And then we moved to Boise after that, and came here and raised two beautiful children, Chase and Chloe, who have been to a number of Club Meds with us over the years. We always say they're going to be future XG, future GOs. And
Well, yeah,
then
yeah. Let's shout this out because you just one of your kids just graduated from University of British Columbia, and the other's a junior at University of Utah and made the pro freestyle team, right?
that's correct. My son Chase, he graduated from engineering at University of British Columbia, and that just happened in May. So I drove up there, spent a week with him
Sorry,
camping, and
I work in engineering in university. So is he a mechanical engineer, building? What?
he wanted to be mechanical, but being in engineering and in the collegiate world, that it's tough, right? And UBC is
Yep.
one of the top 10 universities in the world. Couldn't get into that. He got into materials, and now he
Ah,
wants
okay.
to, wants to invent ski and mountain bike equipment. Get on with some company and invent materials to build better equipment. So that's cool.
Okay, great.
My
Congratulations.
my daughter is at the University of Utah. She just finished her junior year. She's in summer school now, and she'll start her senior year next semester. And she did make the pro tour. Unfortunately, didn't last too long. She got in a really bad ski accident. She in 2020 she had 6 knee operations. Yeah, it was tough. It was very, very tough for her. She made it through it, and she had another operation last year. She toured again, but now, knock on wood, she's doing okay. And she promised me that she would never compete again because I don't think her parents could take it anymore.
Okay,
It's
that's right.
pretty
Yeah,
stressful. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
hard
but it's
having.
cool. Going to Vancouver, I run into people like Jerome Dudacor. We called him Dude. He was in Cancun. He's like the sausage and cheese king of Vancouver down on Granville Island, and I see him every time I go there. So it's again, it's these little connections, and you run into people, and that's the Club Med web, right? You constantly
Yeah.
run into
Well,
somebody.
am I forgetting to ask you about someone else you worked with that you liked? Did you ever did you have a favorite chief of village, or you liked them all, or was there one for you that stood out?
I like them all. It's
Okay.
kind of like the villages. I liked all the villages the same, and everyone was different. I think that's the great thing about Club Med. If they were all the same, it would get boring and monotonous. And every chief was different. And Pierre Latier Gagnon, he let us do whatever we wanted as far as the shows go. We invented a show, the Wayne's World show and the Star Trek show with Kevin and the late Greg Kala and Scott Barney and Ricky Gagne. If you're out there, man, I miss you, bro. Hope Colorado's treating you well. We did the Wayne's World skit. He was Garth and I was Wayne, and it was it was hilarious. And then you'd always have the comedy shows. What was that called at the end of the night? After the main show, that we'd always do this comedy show.
Oh, Flash Cabaret,
Cabaret.
where you would do all these jokes one after another. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that was for a more mature audience, if I recall. We kind of went off to the side and warned everyone what it was going to be. A lot of
I,
stuff flying at you here.
I did that in Copper with Reed and a bunch of guys. It was fun. So as you can tell, I'm smiling in the camera.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
bringing back great memories, Greg. Thank you.
Okay, Chris, we're nearing the end of our hour. Now, before I let you go, because you've been so kind with your time and taking us down memory lane, is there anything I forgot to ask you or you wanted to say about anything? 'Cause, I don't want to let you go unless I know we got a lot, but I don't want
Yeah, I
to.
would. You know what? There's nothing that else I say. I would just like to encourage all the listeners out there to promote Club Med and keep it alive and profitable, and encourage your children or your friends' children's to become a GO. It's the greatest experience that anybody can have. It's lifelong memories, as you can tell. We spoke about for the last hour. Last hour, I can't believe it felt like it went by in 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just encourage everybody to do that. And Steve Riley and some other XGOs are always putting these reunions together. Go out and see them. And when you're in Turks and Caicos, go see Terry at Hemingway's. He's a phenomenal guy with a great restaurant. And Carolyn Robinson, #2, runs it for him now. And just go out there and support it. And you know what? Club Med can be different. The GO team is different now. They have different employment laws that we didn't have before, but it's still a great thing for the family and for you to go with your friends. And I still go. I love it. I love Club Med, and it's forever embedded in my heart and my soul. And thank you again for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And hello to all my XGO brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're smiling.
Well, we're gonna have to end it there, Chris, because I could not improve on that in any way. So I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on and saying yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. Have a great summer.
Thank you. Well, everyone, that was the one, the only Kris Robinson from Boise, Idaho, and we'll be here next week with a brand new episode of my first season. See y'all next week. Bye.